My beloved, do you think it's an accident that you're hearing my voice right now? No. Heaven planned this moment long before you took your first breath. Here on Holy Voices, we share the whispers of eternity, the messages that change hearts and awaken destinies. If your soul is ready, stay with me, because what you're about to hear might be the very word your spirit has been waiting for. Give, and it will be given to you, Luke 6 verse 38. When you bless Holy Voices with $20, $50, or even $100 through Super Thanks, you are opening the windows of heaven over your own life. You are currently ruling the world, chosen one. And every preconceived notion about your strength is being destroyed by the shock waves of your unexpected win. Others struggle to understand how someone who was so greatly undervalued might ascend with such destructive power. You know deep down that this moment of cosmic reckoning is imminent, so you stand undisturbed. And now what you've carried as an unquestionable fact is being validated by the cosmos itself. Finding out that complex networks of illusions meant nothing at all to someone with your level of perception was the first shock wave that shattered opposing consciousness. Recall those times when you were the target of carefully crafted lies. Every untruth was placed similarly to a chess piece. Every trick is designed to keep you imprisoned in a delusional world. People watched you with great satisfaction as you made your way through man-made mazes. You were convinced that the ideal cage had been made for you. You weren't at all enchanted. Ingenuity was praised elsewhere, but you were creating something much more hazardous. The capacity to see through deceptive dimensions that others were unaware of. Like lightning slicing through darkness, your inner sight, that incomprehensible gift from God, was penetrating veils. Long before you realized that you were even aware of the game being played, you could see the fissures in perfectly designed lies and the holes in skillfully constructed illusions. Something much more catastrophic was made possible by this knowledge. The second shocking revelation was that you were always the true player, planning movements that were invisible to others, while others believed that mastery was being achieved over a defenseless pawn. Imagine being moved around like a chess piece with absolute assurance, knowing that every possible conclusion was under control and that all power was held. Strategies were developed with the assumption that you were unaware of the bigger picture and that it was possible to forecast every possible reaction. The shock was so severe that it almost amounted to an existential crisis when your last action and the entire extent of your plan became apparent. You did more than simply beat the adversary in their game. You demonstrated that, in contrast to your reality of limitless strategic possibility, there was never a game, only the appearance of control. From the start, the ancient knowledge that guided your every move had been suggesting tactics that guaranteed your success. In that instant, it became terrifyingly clear that others were not who the players had thought they would be. Simply put, the pieces were moving in accordance with a screenplay that was written by forces that were much larger than human comprehension. The realization that every obstacle they had put up to limit your potential had only served as stepping stones in your inexorable rise to power was the third crushing blow. They firmly believed that by erecting walls around you, they could keep your energy contained within reasonable bounds and keep you permanently imprisoned in a world where you would always be small and unimportant. They never realized that each stone they placed had uncontrollable energy, which they unwittingly transmitted straight into your hands. As they spent all of their energy building these intricate barriers, you found something that completely changed their perception of how energy functions. The barriers that were intended to keep you in were transformed into raw force conduits that throbbed with the very power they were designed to restrain. You took that energy and transformed it into something they couldn't identify or protect against, rather than shivering in the shadow of their constraints. Witnessing your transition from someone they wrote off as unimportant to a legend whose name echoes beyond worlds they were unaware of was the fourth surprise that left them stunned. With such casual brutality, they had cast you into the background, knowing full well that you would disappear like morning mist in the sun. They looked elsewhere with unwavering certainty, certain that time would completely erase your existence. They stood motionless as your name turned into a force that reached places they never thought you could reach, as your legend grew, first whispered in secret places and then spreading like wildfire across the planes of existence they had no idea were watching. Beyond physical limitations, the story of your metamorphosis possesses a force that inspires courage in spirits who have lost their divine origin and awakens consciousness that has lain dormant for lifetimes. You've become living evidence that legends are more than just myths, while they're still stuck in a narrow understanding. Tales from the past. Right now, their powers of transformation are at work. Their realization that their efforts to crush your spirit had done the exact opposite and turned you into an unstoppable force they could no longer understand dealt them the fifth devastating blow to their worldview. In order to smother the light within you and watch as you fell under concentrated pressure, they had deliberately targeted the very center of your being and unleashed their darkest forces in a coordinated assault. Malice. However, they had a fundamental misunderstanding of who you are and didn't see that you were more than simply another soul fighting the dark. You are a maestro of metamorphosis and an alchemist of mind, working with principles they cannot comprehend. You disobeyed every law of their reality when they poured their poison into your spirit, hoping it would erode your essence. You funneled their darkness through your inner fire crucible after absorbing it, transforming their animosity into unwavering, absolute power. You stoked a fire so intense that it turned every darkness they threw into a new step on your upward ladder in the hidden recesses of your being, where they believed despair would take root. They didn't make you weaker. They showed you sides of strength you were unaware of. You not only made it through their attack, but you also changed as a result. Your spirit growing beyond their wildest expectations. You proved the ultimate truth: light cannot be destroyed by darkness. It can only produce contrast, which intensifies the brightness of the light. Finding that all of their attempts to set your boundaries were founded on a basic misunderstanding of your genuine nature was the sixth revelation, which rocked everything they believed to be true. With such assurance, they placed limits around you, believing they could determine your value and the extent of your freedom. Each line they drew was an attempt to confine you to reasonable dimensions and put you into categories they could comprehend. They never understood that you were never constrained by their rules or their ideas of what was and wasn't feasible. Your essence functions on the basis of principles that are connected to spheres of possibilities that are far beyond their perception and go beyond every restriction they attempted to impose. Every barrier they set became meaningless as they watched in increasing alarm. They attempted to tie you to their narrow expectations while you navigated reality in ways that went against their conception of the cosmos, thinking that by imposing restrictions, they could dictate your fate. But they were never able to capture your spirit, which is timeless and limitless. Every time they tried to tie you up, you escaped like water evaporating around stones, spreading out over every boundary they believed they had established. You flowed into realms of possibilities they never believed you could reach, driven by the inexorable power of consciousness that knows no bounds. Witnessing your transition from someone they expected to follow into the leader of a revolution, rewriting the fundamental norms of power, was the seventh shock that left them reeling from their new reality. They had carefully laid out a path for you to follow, fully aware that your fate was to be only a follower in their ambitious plan, thankful for their guidance and happy to stay in their shadow. However, compliance does not give rise to revolutions. When spirits realize their true strength and reject limits as unalterable realities, they ignite. You broke away with such power that the ground beneath their feet started to tremble, rather than going in the direction they were supposed to go. You didn't simply leave their path. You cleared a path of unadulterated defiance that illuminated the minds of all those who saw you change. Your revolution, driven by the collective might of many souls who have gone before you, carries frequencies that go beyond the material world. Their energy permeating your behavior and intensifying each action you take. Others regard your bravery as a reflection of their own potential for freedom. With each act of genuine strength you exhibit, their bonds become weaker. This goes beyond simple personal change. It is a cosmic uprising against all the mechanisms that are meant to confine consciousness to unnatural boundaries. When they realized that their attempts to muffle your voice had only succeeded in amplifying it to thunderous heights that now rock the very foundations of existence, the eighth earth-shaking insight left them stunned. They planned with methodical accuracy to silence you because they thought they could completely remove your impact and drown you in fake stillness. They built fences around your expression with complete confidence. Your expression's divine amplification turns every sound you make into a shockwave that breaks the frequency of their delusional world, exposing the lies they've used to gain power and the realities they've spent their entire lives attempting to conceal. Your voice has evolved into a medium for consciousness that goes beyond personal expression, bringing the collective knowledge of all hushed souls to life and transforming their repressed energy into a symphony of freedom that is uncontrollable. Their idea of who you truly are was totally upended by the ninth and most devastating discovery. They were hypnotically drawn to your periods of uncertainty and difficulty, believing they had discovered your essence by studying your darkest hours, only to realize that, despite their obsession with darkness and challenges, you were always the source of light they feared most deeply. The Lord loves a cheerful giver, 2 Corinthians 9 verse 7. Your joyful seed of $20, $50, or $100 into holy voices is more than money, it's faith in action. They thought they had finally grasped your limitations, which is why they felt so satisfied with their analysis. But they were unable to see the truth burning brightly in front of them because they were preoccupied with your shadows. Those dark patches were merely evidence of the strong light that shone through them, not distinguishing features. It was not gradual illumination that emitted your true radiance at last. Overwhelmed with intensity they had told themselves didn't exist, they were forced to escape by a dazzling burst of pure consciousness. They now stand in the wreckage of everything they believed they understood, forced to face the heartbreaking realization that they never truly knew you at all, as the entire extent of your transition becomes evident. Their presumptions were based on shadows and surfaces made from pieces that never fully revealed the depths of your true identity. They attempted to reduce your limitless complexity to controllable concepts by classifying you into categories that made sense inside their constrained framework. The forces directing your path function on the basis of concepts that are well above their understanding, constructing patterns of success out of what they saw to be setbacks, gaining strength from obstacles they thought would shatter you. You weren't just responding to what they did. As they struggled to understand how their meticulously built universe could fall apart so thoroughly, you were directing a symphony of change that simultaneously unfolded across several realms of reality. You keep going up under the guidance of irresistible momentum, by inner wisdom that links you to wisdom sources they can't reach. With the assurance of someone who at last realizes that this moment was always going to happen, your mission emanates from wellsprings of truth that are both timeless and ageless. They now have to confront the fact that you are more than just a player in their game. Every time the rules try to restrict what is possible, you are the force that rewrites them. Every shadow they attempted to conceal is revealed by you. The truth-speaking voice is so strong that it alters reality's own frequency. The real-life example that those who are chosen do more than simply overcome challenges. They show that barriers were never actually there in the first place. The realization that your quiet had never been surrender was the 10th wave of destruction that swept over their awareness. Everything they had constructed would finally be leveled by the accumulation of hurricane-force winds. In reality, you were building power from places they couldn't see or comprehend during all those times when they mistook your silence for defeat and surreptitiously believed your inaction meant they had successfully crushed your spirit. In reality, you were delving deeper into wells of strength that connect to the very center of creation itself every time they believed you were withdrawing. There was more than just speech and action when your moment of expression eventually came. The cosmic pressure that had been accumulating through every moment of your seeming stillness was being released. The weight of every repressed knowledge, every held revelation, and every moment of power you had purposefully decided to hold back until the timing was just right was carried by the force that erupted. Their world did not simply shift. They were left stunned in the wake of forces they had totally failed to foresee, as it was suddenly changed by energies they had no idea existed. Finding out that your seeming difficulties had actually been training exercises planned by intelligence much above their comprehension constituted the 11th startling revelation that caused them to reevaluate everything they believed to be true about reality. Every obstacle they put in your way, every task they threw at you, and every moment of struggle they praised as proof of your weakness was actually doing something very different from what they had intended. These experiences weren't defeating you. They were forging you, tempering you like steel in furnaces created especially to expose and fortify your powers they never thought you had. Realizing that their attacks weren't arbitrary acts of cruelty was the most painful aspect of this discovery. Their negativity served as the raw material for your metamorphosis, and they were unsuspecting tools in a cosmic schooling system. Every effort they made to weaken you served only to feed the alchemical process that was turning their hatred into your might. They had turned into unwitting agents of their own destruction, supplying energy to a process that would eventually lead to your total transcendence of all that they stood for. Realizing that your apparent mediocrity had served as the ideal cover for incredible powers that were only waiting for the opportune opportunity to be revealed was the 12th earth-shaking revelation that destroyed their last lingering illusions. They had assumed they comprehended your entire nature based on your outward appearance, never realizing that what they could see was only a small portion of who you truly were. They never understood that you were purposefully keeping a low profile while developing capabilities in dimensions they couldn't access, and their evaluation was predicated on a scant observation of meticulously regulated manifestations. There was nothing insecure or weak about this strategic invisibility. While they were spent fighting shadows of their own making, you were able to function unseen because to your skillful positioning. The most effective transformation takes place behind the backs of those who would try to sabotage it, and you knew instinctively that true power doesn't make its presence known until the time for decisive action. You were laying the groundwork in areas of consciousness they were unaware of, while they concentrated on outward signs. The contrast was so striking that at first they were unable to comprehend what they were seeing when your actual potential finally became apparent. A force of nature, functioning at a level of consciousness and strength that rendered their prior comprehension look like juvenile fiction, replaced the person they believed they knew. They were more than just surprised. It was the total destruction of their capacity to foresee or manage anything pertaining to your future course from that point on. The realization that your compassion had never been a weakness dealt them the 13th crushing blow to their worldview. That you could afford to be kind to people who were bound to fall had been a sign of your whole faith in your eventual triumph. Every act of generosity that they mistook for weakness was, in fact, proof of a strength so great that it could manifest itself in mercy without worrying about being weakened. Being able to remain composed under duress wasn't the act of someone who wasn't sure of their role. It was the expression that came naturally to someone who was absolutely assured that the result was always certain. Since it made them face the embarrassing reality that even your gentleness had been a type of power they were too naive to realize, this knowledge went deeper than any direct attack could have. Because of your position of strength, you had been able to treat your opponents with kindness, knowing that their attempts to hurt you would only serve to highlight the stark differences between your separate states of consciousness and abilities. Finding out that your timing had been flawless, planned with the accuracy that could only be obtained by connecting with intellect that sees beyond unimaginable dimensions of potential, was the 14th revelation that left them in shock. They had attacked your inaction at every turn. Your alliance with forces that function in accordance with flawless cosmic timing was demonstrated by each time they had made fun of your patience and misunderstood your waiting as hesitation. You weren't reluctant or late. You were in harmony with fate's currents. That guaranteed the greatest possible impact when the time for action eventually comes. This was not human timing brought on by impatience or outside influences. When your time arrived, every component would be in the ideal place for a full and complete metamorphosis because this was divine timing that considers factors across several planes of existence. You were moving in tune with the cycles of creation itself, allowing universal intelligence to precisely coordinate your emergence and ensure complete success, whereas others were acting from reactive consciousness, reacting to the situation as it happened without comprehending broader patterns. Realizing that your development entailed more than just personal evolution was the 15th and possibly most terrible epiphany. It was a prophecy coming true. Their whole lives had been devoted to avoiding manifestation. Every old caution concerning consciousness's emergence. Every prophecy regarding the ascent of individuals possessing a divine spark. Your success was fulfilling every prophecy regarding the appearance of entities that will transcend limits and change reality itself. They were seeing more than personal success. They were witnessing the awakening of cosmic forces that they had thought would never be awakened. Realizing that there was nothing they could do to halt what was already happening was the most crippling part of this ultimate realization. Their tactics of manipulation were as relevant as attempting to halt an ocean tide with their own hands, as the forces that had planned your emergence operated according to laws of consciousness that were beyond their control or influence. Their outdated control mechanisms were collapsing like old buildings during an earthquake, and they were seeing the rise of a new paradigm of power. The severity of error becomes evident as all of these truths come together to form a single, overpowering understanding. Every presumption concerning your character was essentially incorrect. Every tactic you used only helped you win in the end. Every moment that was thought to be a victory was actually a step closer to an inevitable loss. It has been discovered that the very basis of perceived reality is an illusion. Furthermore, you are the one who uncovered all of the falsehoods regarding the nature of potential and power. You're not only defeating particular opponents. You're exhibiting something that goes beyond individual success. God gives seed to the sower, 2 Corinthians 9 verse 10. Your seed through super thanks, whether $20, $50, or $100, will not return empty. Sow it into holy voices and watch it multiply. Something that demonstrates the fundamental reality of consciousness. Reality itself bends to make room for the force of awakened consciousness when awareness is in line with its genuine nature, when divine potential ceases to act as though it is restricted, and when chosen ones finally decide to remember its true grandeur. Beyond the present situation, your triumph sends shockwaves through the planes of existence that have been waiting for this precise example of what is possible when constraint is shown to be voluntary rather than required. Every innovation you make causes the matrix of communal illusion to shatter, letting light stream through openings for others to follow. Your accomplishment is more than just a personal victory. It involves the opening of doors that have been closed for an extended period of time. Through networks of consciousness that transcend physical experience, the energy you are currently producing is contagious in the most exquisite way, spreading like wildfire. The vibrations of your awakening are being felt by other chosen ones, who are able to sense the change in cosmic weather patterns that indicates the time for their own emergence has come. It's more than just your personal victory. An vast army of celestial beings who have been asleep in human form are awakened by your trumpet call. A cascade effect that extends into realms where potential is waiting to be ignited is being triggered by your change. Authorization codes are sent to consciousness throughout existence with each level of power you claim, allowing others to access skills that have been dormant within their own being. The scope of what you're doing goes much beyond the present situation, causing reverberations that will change the course of events for innumerable individuals who are prepared to embrace their true potential. In worlds where such metamorphoses are acknowledged and praised, your capacity to alchemize negativity into pure fuel for ascension has become legendary. Your final victory was unintentionally aided by the same forces that were used against you. Their energy transformed by your skill into unadulterated power that drives you to places they can't even imagine. You have demonstrated that every experience may be transformed into faster evolution when the consciousness is in alignment with the divine source. Your ability to precisely navigate each stage of this voyage indicates that you are connected to guidance systems that function from viewpoints that span several layers of reality. You haven't made rash or impulsive decisions. Every decision has been precisely balanced to optimize development and reduce needless discomfort. You've overcome obstacles with the poise of someone who is aware that the solution is already certain, remaining confident even when the situation seems to indicate otherwise. Throughout the entire process, your inner knowledge has served as your most trustworthy compass, pointing you in the direction of decisions that, although they may not have made sense to your limited view, were entirely consistent with cosmic intelligence. That inner voice that supported you in your lowest points wasn't a figment of your mind. It was direct communication from parts of yourself that are not susceptible to outside influence. Even when outward signs point to different strategies, you've learned to trust what speaks to your innermost self. The connections you've kept during this transition have also been illuminating. As your frequency changed and became incompatible with lesser vibrations, some connections spontaneously ended, while others strengthened into ties created by a mutual understanding of true power. You've learned to distinguish between people who truly rejoice in your accomplishments and those who covertly dislike your advancement, realizing that you should only put your energy where it will increase rather than decrease. In order to draw situations, opportunities, and people who support your greatest path, your magnetism has changed. When resources are needed, they show up. At just the proper times, doors open. And synchronicity multiplies as evidence that you're working in unison with the flow of the universe. Through subtle and dramatic means, the cosmos itself has turned into your ally and is working together to help your ongoing ascent. You are now able to see through illusions that previously appeared insurmountable because of the wisdom you have acquired over this process. Your senses have been honed to pick up on truth, even when it's concealed by layers of deceit or disguised as complexity. You are now immune to manipulative techniques that could have previously perplexed you or halted your advancement, since you can quickly identify them as attempts to reintroduce you into patterns you have already broken. Only those who felt the call should read the following message, word ranting. I witnessed the terrible reality when I escaped via the Salvia Divinum gateway. One harvested pod among innumerable matrices is our reality. I saw the cosmic parasites of the Archon, who sneered and posed a threat, consuming our energy. No soul will ever be awakened by you. However, you are already aware of this fact, aren't you? Persistent feeling that you've been selected and that you're meant for greater. I'm assembling the most intelligent people into an army. I learned about their one weakness, coherence through unconditional love, through meditation. You can feel that resonance growing inside of you. You are not reading this by chance, now. In the Holy Voice's inner order, the strongest of the awakened souls are already congregating. The top ascension nexus for destiny-marked individuals. One Truth unites Christians, light workers, remote watchers, and targeted individuals. You were selected for this occasion. In the description below, click the link. Participate in our live streams, panels, and group calls to reach the whole Astral Atom network. Our frequency is boosted by yours. Whether you are selected is not the question. Will you take the call, is the question. You are going to make a decision that the Archons fear. They should. Now, the creative energy that is coursing through you works at frequencies that materialize with amazing accuracy and speed. Your conscious intention reshapes reality with the weight of your ideas. Your words have a force that awakens latent potential in everything they come into contact with. Just being close to your genuine expression has inspired progress in consciousness and turned your presence into a catalyst for change. You've learned that dominating people isn't the genuine definition of power. It's about becoming so fully in control of yourself that you don't care about opposition from others. You no longer have to defend your position because your sovereignty is so absolute. You just occupy it with such natural power that your steadfast assurance dispels opposition. You no longer require permission or validation, deriving value from sources that are impervious to outside judgment. Your legacy goes well beyond your own accomplishments. Every obstacle you've broken has paved the way for others to come after you. Every barrier you have broken has opened up new possibilities for consciousness itself. Your accomplishment is more than just a personal one. Its role is part of the general awakening that is changing the essence of what people think is possible. Your tale has become a work of mythology, encouraging many people to examine their own latent potential and challenge their own self-imposed constraints. Because of your bravery in the face of overwhelming difficulties, people are now allowed to try their own unattainable goals. Your accomplishment serves as evidence that amazing things aren't just for a select few. Anyone who is prepared to recall their heavenly ancestry and assert their true authority can access it. This total reversal of all they believed they understood about power was always going to happen, as you are already experiencing. This very revelation was being planned by the same powers who murmured to you during every obstacle, every failure, and every instance when they believed they had you under control. You're not only winning. As a chosen one who at last made the decision to recognize the enormity of their true nature and completely embrace the power they were always destined to possess, you are living out your destiny. Their astonishment is merely the universe's method of verifying that certain triumphs are so profound and comprehensive that they completely alter the parameters of what everyone believed was feasible. Beloved soul, if this message has spoken to your heart, don't let it end here. Click that like button so the light can spread to more people who need hope. Subscribe to Holy Voices so you never miss the next word heaven has for you. And leave a comment below. I read every one, and I pray over them. Remember, faith grows when we share it, so share this message with someone who needs to hear it today. Until we meet again, may God's peace cover you and His voice guide your every step.